All right, good morning. We got the follow-up podcast, episode 18, right, Conley? Check me on that.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
crazy.
we're going to do another two podcast episode today. We got two Anduril themed podcasts. Believe we talked about it before, but I'm very interested in Anduril right now for some reason that I don't know if I want to say publicly. I'm sure you can guess it. Um, and I've been gobbling up any Anduril content I could find, which there's a lot out there. Is one of the things I wanted to say is these new companies, they are public with podcast. It's not just their CEO, it's not just their owner. Like they're legitimately like high position people at the chain that are just free forming an hour or 40-minute podcast. Which I bet you can't find a Boeing president that's just on an hour 40-minute podcast, unscripted, right? It's cool. There's cool access to it. And I think that's an advantage for them, like to recruit. But
It's something you can do when your leaders are having those discussions with the team and in the problem solving loop too. Like you can't really do an hour podcast and talk about products and problems if you're not in the loop of that problem solving.
yeah, and I think it says something about our generation where we're more comfortable in the internet environment, what you can say, what you can't say. Kind of, we've divorced the like those people represent Andrel, and a huge gaff would negatively impact them. But there's also a return on the other side, and more of a understanding that one person's opinion on something doesn't reflect the entire company, which I think is the attitude the current DoD incumbents have.
hmm
Like everything public facing with anything Boeing, Lockheed, Northrop, Raytheon is so scripted, so dialed in by lawyers and PR guys that
Yeah, and they kind of address that in these podcasts. Do you want to tell the listeners which ones we're going to be talking about today?
can you tell I'm excited? All right, so we got first one. We'll go in this order. The first one's by a podcast called 20 VC, which is the first time I found this podcast. I found it by searching Anduril in Spotify. It's called, the title's Matt Grimm, co-founder of Anduril, How the Trump Administration Changed the Defense Industry. Another clickbait title. They talked, 30 seconds about Trump.
Yeah.
If Trump's mentioned in the podcast, it's going in the title.
Should we do
We're
it?
finding that.
Should we do it?
No, we should not do it. I hate that. I hate that. There's so much better ways to describe what they talked about. In general, it's, I would say if you're trying to, if I'm only going to listen to one of these. Which one do I listen to? The first one that I just listed is more about execution of companies, what new companies are like. The second one is a podcast called Risk Gaming. It's hard to find on YouTube. I couldn't find this episode on YouTube. I found it on Spotify. It's the future of defense manufacturing with the CEO. Get out of here. And it's more about military strategy and how conflicts are changing with drones. So if that's interested you, I thought that was a very, you don't, there's no four-star generals that are talking strategy, right? They try to keep it close to the vest. So for people like me that really love military strategy, especially modern military strategy, I love that conversation. It was right on my alley.
Yeah, I would say the risk gaming felt like a product sales pitch for Andrew, and the other one, the 20-minute VC, was more of the I guess maybe day to day how the company is doing through its funding and more the business side of stuff and less the product side.
Yep, agreed. I
And
had more notes on this one than I've had for any.
I was wondering, I was wanting to know which one you think I liked more, and I was like wanting to guess which one you liked more.
Go first.
Well, you might have given me a hint, too much of a hint before I said something, but the risk gaming one. And I was guessing that even before I listened to it, just because the name of it was like Sterling saw a podcast named Risk Gaming. And he was like, I have to listen to this. And then also Andrew, so like I'm sure you love that first or the risk gaming one. Is that right?
You guessed right. That's not how I found it.
That is exactly how it is.
That's not how I found it.
Come
So
on.
the first one I liked so much, I just started Googling or Spotify searching Andrel, and that popped up. It was before the first or the second. I was looking for content to kind of have some talking points at the.
Yeah, no, that's smart. I think you would be foolish not to like do type of research like that. And also, I think that helps you create a vision of where you really want to go. Like it makes your decision easier where you want to like invest your time in
Yeah.
research like that.
It's cool that you can really get a sense of a company's culture through a podcast.
Instead of the stupid corporate videos that used to exist on like you get that one corporate video for 10 years for a company on YouTube. If you look
Right.
them up, that's what you get. Yeah. And like the people who are making decisions in the company, you get to hear with like an actual dialogue with them. And you get like there's no like that's awesome that you can do that before like looking further into companies.
Again, you have no clue why Boeing's deciding to compete for what they're competing on. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to give you anything, which is, there's arguments for that, but
So which one do you think I liked more?
you like the first one, the business one.
Yep.
As for the same reason I liked it, it was I thought it was very good at a very good insight into business. Like I learned more from the first one. I enjoyed the second one more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have many notes on the risk gaming one because it was more like I can't say much about the product development and military defense, you know. It's like I don't have much to add there. It's cool, you know.
Yeah. Like you'll see videos where it's like, oh, drones are the next thing. Well, yeah, duh. But they actually go into talking about, more than just the headline, right? There's actual detail behind it. What drones, what's going to be the advantage? Why is it hard to shoot a drone down? That type of stuff. Let's see.
It's just funny because I think we've spent an hour or two talking about just how do you defend drones. It
Really?
seems like
Yep.
conversations are happening. It's like it's not an easy problem, and it's kind of I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny that that's stuff we've talked about, and I
Right.
feel like we aren't like that far off of where they're at. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like you fight fire with fire. It's that age old. How do you shoot down a missile with another missile? How do you kill a drone with a drone, right? Or a fleet of drones, or
Yeah, and so we're gonna be talking about the 20-minute VC one first here.
that's where I'm going to start. But I'm not going to be shy about mixing it up.
The I guess like just on that topic. Actually, you can go ahead. Go ahead. You start.
Well, I just have a million notes. You got something you want to talk about? Go ahead.
I'll just get into my guts of it because I think, and this will hint at my takeaway. My takeaway from both these podcasts is going to be from the 20-minute VC one, and it was when he asked them about their product design. It's like, why do you make a missile look so badass if it's just going to explode? Like, why? Other companies don't do it. They just paint them brown, gray, and metal, and they send them off, right? And his answer was from the design portion of the process, our designers, our engineers are more bought in. It's a mindset really of, hey, we're building the best product, the coolest product in every aspect of it. And you might waste some time making it look a little bit too cool, but that's going to really require you to make every single aspect that might not like seem like that it matters to over engineer that aspect, not even over engineer it, but care about it. You got to
Right.
care about the details. And even like these super successful and driven engineers, like they're really good, but we're all humans and we might
Right.
lose touch of stuff if it doesn't look cool, if it's not front of mind.
Right.
But it's like that mindset just all the way through the whole design development process, having the mindset of we're building the best, the coolest thing. And then also he was talking about when you deploy it, like the people who are unpacking it or using it, do they have confidence in it?
Right.
Do they feel a certain way when they use it? Do they feel confident when they use it? It's like I want that mindset with everything I build and touch. And I think it's a very contagious mindset, no matter what you're working on, whether it's cool or not. Make
Mhm.
it cool, make it awesome, make it better than what people expect. And I think whatever you're doing, you're gonna win it. Especially
Right.
like with stuff that isn't as cool because people aren't gonna be used to it. Like, what the heck are they doing? Is
Yeah.
he really like making that simple, boring thing cool? Like, so that's my takeaway.
No, I
from
love that.
both of
So
these
you're gonna get
podcasts.
more. You're gonna get more hours out of your designers, right? If they're more bought in, they're more proud of it. Yeah, there's so many psychological advantages. I think that's one of the things that Lockheed's really done well, and it's why they've kind of cornered the fighter jet market. When I was at Boeing and at Northrop Grumman, they both competed against Lockheed for the F-22. Their version was the FY-23, and both companies are absolutely convinced that they had a better performing plane. But I've seen pictures of it. It was ugly. Same thing with the F-35 competition. Ugly. And I think it matters to the Air Force. I mean, when they have a commercial, the very first thing on the commercial is the F-22 braking, right?
Yeah,
It's braking hard right. There's that sonic boom behind it. It looks dope. And then they cut to the Navy, the people in the plane, right, about ready to jump out. I mean, all their commercials about and how they recruit soldiers is come be a badass with us.
I've definitely heard them referred to as the Nike of defense. Like even
That's cool.
their logo, their jets.
That's
And
cool.
even in this podcast, he was like, "Why aren't we making our drones look like the F-35 or F-22?" It's like,
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's a mindset to have.
I love that.
You
Yeah.
know what? When you were talking about like what it just related to me in my head was like when you're trying to get your kids excited about sports, you want them to have fun. You want them to for them to be their best, they have to have fun working hard. I think that's what this enables, right?
Yeah, you're right. You want them to love it because nothing's going to beat the winner is going to be the person that puts in the most time, most of the time, right? Basketball's a little different because, 7 foot guy's going to beat you for how much time you put in. But for the most part,
That's a crappy mindset, dude. Steph Curry's up. I mean, you're less likely
if you're
for sure,
5'10", there's
but
one
you
of
can't
those
say
guys
it's
in the NBA.
impossible.
Um, but that's besides the point. The person that puts in the most effort is likely going to win. And also, the person that puts in the most effort is going to be most in love with the product, the game, the craft, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's probably just gonna make other aspects of your life easier too. Like, I mean, you can even get into crazy compound effects of like home life. Like, if you're more excited to go to work as opposed to dreading working overtime or whatever, like you're probably
Mm-hmm.
gonna have a better home life if you're happy going into work and coming home from work and whatnot. You give better presentations. You talk easier about it if you care about it, right?
You can feel that enthusiasm coming out of people, right? You can imagine like going and selling it to the general, and you're in love with it. You think it's the coolest thing ever. It's gonna be contagious. Yeah. The workout thing I got for Christmas, the Vitruvian, it's carbon fiber, and one of the interviews with the guy because I was trying to decide whether to buy it
Say the
with
name
the
of it again.
Vitruvian. That's not gonna work. I was trying to decide whether to buy. I was looking at videos, and the owner and designer was asked why he made it out of carbon fiber. Metal would have been just fine and cheaper. He's like, because it looks badass.
Yeah, because what do you want to go like? What's going to motivate you to work out more? Like, are you gonna? It's like this like feel good, play good, right? If you're like pushing around these ugly weights or this ugly machine, you're not going to feel as cool or sexy as a carbon fiber sleek machine. You know?
That's right. That's right. Okay, I'm just gonna fly through these and let me know. Let me know what you think on each of these. So he asked whether Andrew would have done better with a Kamala win over a Trump win, and I thought the answer wasn't interesting. It was some candid. We're gonna do better with both, but his line, his response was dope. He's like, Better's doing a lot of work in that line. I thought I was there's a couple of his answers that were just well crafted verbiage that I really liked.
Yeah, you can tell he puts a lot of time into being able to be successful in like these podcast formats because he even talked about that he will rewatch them like 1 to 3 times after to see what he could have
Yeah.
done better.
The next one was the part of the battle with China is our lower level manufacturing processes. So you don't have to worry about China making the F5 or the radar for the F-35 or the high end chips for the F-35, but lower than that, lower end chips, the metal, that type of thing. I wanted to because I don't think a lot of people have insight to it. But when you think about what the Israelis did with the pager bomb, Were you following how they did that?
I'm familiar with it as opposed to how they did it. Didn't they like
They
acquire a company like 5 or 10 years ago that
under a shell name, so it wasn't linked to them, right? And they made batteries. This company made batteries, but what they did is they bought batteries, put an explosive device in it, and so just one brilliant like weaponry, like strategy, and extremely targeted. But people don't take that lesson and think about how that applies to making weapons. If you have a mouse on your weapon, it's probably made in China. And guess what that mouse could do? Right? You're not worried about exploding and hitting your soldier. You're worried about it tracking all the keystrokes. You're worried about your keyboard tracking everything it types and sending it back to your competitors. You're worried about it inserting malware and capturing the code, the real genius behind the weapons. All these things. So it's a true battleground between great powers is this supply chain now. Like a true battleground.
that's when you're talking about modern war, that's one, right? But the other thing he brought up, it was very first question of the podcast, and I wanted to ask you it. Should TikTok be banned?
I have a I don't think you'll like my answer. Because I agree with his side, whereas the person that owns the most consequential media outlet in the United States should not be China. That is a dangerous potential weapon. And China is,
I don't even know if you can say potential, man. Like, you
well,
genuinely
I
don't
don't think
think.
they're using it right now. I think China long term, right? China's going to let it be just a great product, capture that market, and then they will weaponize it in the future. Like I don't think there's current Chinese propaganda trying to bring our future kids, make them stupider. I don't think that's an active strategy. They're just trying to make the best social media account now. But I think there could be, like, if there goes a hot war against Taiwan, yeah, there could be propaganda the next day. But as an American with rights, particularly freedom of speech, I hate it. I hate that decision.
Yeah, but I feel like that's not like, I don't think that's an angle that this should be looked at. Like, if it's a security threat, and it seems very well like that, it seems pretty obvious that it should and is a security threat, then like they shouldn't, just because they have a company inside the United States doesn't mean they should be able to have like rights to be in the free market.
I think it sets a dangerous precedent that the government can decide what companies I participate with. One, this is very contrary
I
to my
I agree.
libertarian beliefs.
I agree, but at the same time, I think this is like one step further to where, yeah, if the CCP has like direct ownership and access to all the data that's being stored for this application, this seems like a pretty drastic difference between some person or other entity that's not a direct threat to the United States controlling a company and competing in a free market here.
Yeah, and that's why I think you're not going to like my answer because I see both sides. I can see that threat and I can understand it. But my first principles tells me that's not how governments should operate. They should not be allowed to tell me where I can spend my time on what technology.
But do you have a line? What if you do start to see the propaganda spread? Do you say like
My
government
well,
still?
so my first principles, well, I'm not a dummy. You don't need to nanny me. You don't need to tell me when I'm being propagandized,
Mhm.
right? Because you're essentially the biggest problem I have is where am I going to go, right? You take away TikTok, where am I going to go? YouTube, Instagram. One, they all suck. They're inferior. One, and two, they you just spent the last 10 years infiltrating them, coercing them to not show me stuff that they should be showing me over and over again, right?
You just
Destroying the
explained your
trust.
bias. I think you just explained your bias that you don't want to have to go somewhere else.
Right, but don't you find it convenient that the government's trying to take away the only option they don't have by the balls?
Yes, I mean I agree. I see both sides. But if it's I think the question is if the CCP has control of the data and can influence the algorithms, I think that's a threat. I don't see how that's not like a plausible threat to like cut it off. Just that fact alone, like it's so powerful. Like propaganda is like a huge weapon. It's like one of the biggest weapons you have.
Right. So what's our defense against the United States propaganda on us? It's free market. It's this. It's the alternative. And it sucks that the alternative came from China. But if you wanted to get real data from during COVID, you had a better chance of getting it from TikTok than you did from Instagram. 100%. Joe Rogan got more views on TikTok than he did on Instagram during that whole debacle.
Is that a fact?
Not a fact. I don't have the data, but I guarantee it. If he's usually getting 100 views on YouTube, he was way down during that.
Yeah. I like that argument of it being the kind of the pull to the
Here's
push.
one more thing. If every senator is ever aligned on something, it's wrong. There's no example in the history of the United States where every senator was like, yeah, let's go to Iraq. This will be a good idea. Has turned out well for us. Never. You see the two aisles agreeing on something, you're going to regret it. But I do not want China. Like, if I had a choice, it would not be owned by China.
See, I would, from the information I have, I think I would genuinely have to know. Like, the data is stored overseas, right? It's not in the United States. I don't know. I feel like it's too obvious.
They claim it's in the U.S.
Really? I don't know. I go back and forth on it. What really has thrown me off in the past couple months is like Trump's swing for it. And it's like, why is he like...
Because it helped him win.
I know, but that doesn't sit right with me. Just like...
That's Trump's MO.
He just throws away all his...
Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's how he wins. He compiles powerful people that will scratch his back and he'll scratch back. And it's not how government should be, but that is 101.
Yeah, I didn't like that, but...
I mean, why do you think all the tech CEOs are running to his office and getting on their hands and knees? Because they know they'll get a bigger return back.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, Matt said that it should be banned. 100% is what he said. And he had like an initial answer that was like, it didn't paint a good picture of why he thought it should be banned. I thought his initial answer was like 100%. I can't remember what he said.
It was retribution, right? Instagram's not allowed there.
Yeah. It was a horrible example. I feel like that isn't even what he was trying to explain. He kind of got to it later. But just because China's doing something does not mean we should. I was like, whoa.
There is that argument, right? We can't sell Fords over there, right? They keep us out of that market. Or pick an example. That might be a bad example, but they keep a lot of our companies out. Like, there's a reason Amazon doesn't dominate China, because China forced them out and funded Alibaba. So there's a little bit of an argument there to be made that if they're doing this, if we don't do it back, their companies will have the advantage. They'll win the economic thing. But at the same time, as much shit we talk about the Chinese government, to outright copy them and take away freedom from the citizens is defeating the enemy by becoming the enemy.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, I didn't think what he initially explained was even what he was really wanting to say. I think if he framed it as more as like, oh, we can't be competitive, we're going to lose if we allow them to be in our market, but us not in theirs. If you're to negotiate that.
So next thing I had was, I obviously subscribe to you need a badass military to deter, not to use. And I've always, or at least for a long time, I've held the belief that government should pretty much just be taxing people enough to have a awesome defense to where your borders are sovereign, your freedom's protected. And outside of that, there should be very little the government does. But I've also always, because I get paid by the DoD, right? So I've never been challenged on it, but I think I could be. I don't know what your thoughts are. Do you think I'm a homer?
Homer. As in that you think we should mainly be allocating to defense from a government?
Do you think I'm making an exception to my libertarian values because that's what pays my paycheck? Like, I can easily justify it in my head, but I don't know if I'm
I think I need to question you on it, like we just
I
did with
think
that
so.
whole TikTok spiel. I mean, initially, I haven't really talked through your mindset on why that should be the main. I mean, you just gave a little spiel about it. I mean, your spiel sound good. I like education. You don't think like education. I know you're
Yep.
going to want a free market in education.
Yep. I think you could rattle off almost anything else, and I can make a case to be better without the government.
You know, one of my notes was that Andril is it is actually from the risk gaming one, so I'm jumping. My note says Andril is a great example of an open market winning. Not just because Andril, right? Andril is only here because of Silicon Valley. And all those companies competed in the open market and they made a bunch of money and that money redistributes and 10, 15 years later we now have an Andril only because of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I had a lot of things along that line too. It's like they were in a hyper competitive market, hyper competitive, because billions of dollars are being made every day based on who's the best software company. And that is now their biggest advantage over the DoD incumbents because they have not had to compete in that front whatsoever. And they are woefully behind on it. So, yeah, I absolutely agree there. I loved how this is from the second podcast too. They zagged when all the incumbents were firm fixed price, go slow, don't take any risk. They're the opposite. And that seems really obvious now that Angel's worth however many billions of dollars.
What were the what were the R&D expenses from like a traditional Department of Defense versus Andril? I think that's a cool stat to give the viewers if they
So the
haven't listened.
primes, he said the primes spend about 1.5% on R&D, and Andro spends 60 to 70%, which is really cool.
And
And
that's of the revenue or profit.
it's of
I
their
guess it wouldn't
budget.
be profit if they're spent. Oh,
It's of their budget. So all the fundraising they make, all the profits they have, combine it all
I suppose
together,
what is Lockheed or Boeing spent like
1.5%.
it was like but they spent like 6 billion on stock buybacks and
Yeah.
1 billion on development. Yeah.
And it's hard to, like he said, it's hard to question the primes because they've outperformed the stock market. There's some crazy stats there where Northrop was at 20%, Boeing and Lockheed are 15 over the last 20 years, to the stock market's 10%, right? So Northrop's done double what the stock market's done over a 20-year span. So it's working for them.
So one thing I'm curious about is like SpaceX is like notoriously Elon says they'll never go public, whether that's true or not. But they want to do that just because they want to be able to achieve their mission goals above everything else. They don't want to be liable to making profits for their stockholders. Do you think that is something that you are concerned about with Andrew going public, or like
Not if I have stock first. Yeah.
because
I
the
go back
initial
and forth on that.
yeah, go ahead.
So, like, of course, there's examples where you're like, darn it, they prioritize profits over everything else. Like, just look at the pharmaceutical companies. We've done an episode on them where it's just like, you're evil. You're evil for choosing money over those consequences. But if you believe in free markets, you got to give people the opportunity to. And there's also think about how many companies have achieved and made our lives better because of the access to that immense amount of capital. That's what it is. That's what going public is you're instead of getting private offers for venture capital funding, you're getting offers from the globe. And I can give $1 and Bill Gates can give $100 million all in this massive pool. And there's no better place to get capital funding.
Yeah, so I think it's the question of the leadership of the company. I think typically, like with the public companies, it gets a broader board with more people who just care about money, and that's the issue. So I think if like Andrew can keep its leadership, because genuinely what they're doing now is they are optimizing profits just by being the best company and solving problems the best and being efficient, being the most efficient is why they're making money and being successful. Well, they can stick to that mission, but I think 100 years from now, 50 years from now, like every other company, there's a point where they're gonna reach a point of like as a public company, I think you
Yeah.
have a higher risk of reaching that point of rot to where you have to start working back to efficiency and what was our initial goals of the company. Just like my initial thoughts of like them going public is like almost surprised me. I didn't really expect them to go public, but I guess they're in venture funding and that's the next step and that's the Silicon Valley mindset as well. Go through your funding
Yeah.
rounds public and make a bunch of money.
There's a certain trajectory to the life cycle of a business where it seems inevitable to eventually become the incumbent that's, you know, not hungry, just squeezing out dollars type of thing. And eventually they'll lose. It's a matter of when, right? Let's see. But so the Zag thing is interesting to me because it's like there are things where everyone has consensus to one direction, and the best option is to zag against that. You hear that in sports a lot, but I don't know. I think I'm going to start looking for it more. Like I like the idea of that. There are zags out there that are hard to see. There's that line he had. He said, Peter Thiel says what do you say? There's no money in low alpha. Is that right? Essentially, if a company's not doing something drastically different than other companies, then there's even if they win, they won't win big. Right? The ones that win big, the ones that have the big alpha, are the company that are doing things differently.
Yeah. That was that the risk gaming one with Brian where he was talking about the other new defense companies coming
No,
up. How okay.
it was the first one because that guy, the first guy, Matt, he'd worked with Peter at Palantir.
Gotcha. One thing about the 20-minute VC one, so like it does the same. It has like the first minute intro of like the clips of them talking. And one of the clips, and I'm interested to see if it stuck out to anyone else, was like, do you think Iran is the greatest evil? And then it's like quick, Matt says, no, the CCP is. I heard it as, do you think Elon is the greatest evil? And he goes, no, the CCP is. And I heard like the intro twice. I'm like, that is a weird question. Like, what am I missing here? And then actually in the podcast, he says it. I go, oh, he said Iran.
I did not hear Elon.
That's funny. They don't really sound the same. You can kind of make them sound the same, but he
Yeah,
did. He did.
especially if you're listening on 1.8 speed like we do.
Yeah. Oh, you do 1.8? I'm like, I'm 1.2 if I want to actually get a good listen.
I do
1.
most of mine at 1.5, but this morning it was a little time constrained. I can go all the way up to 2 if I'm really trying, but
What's funny is everyone kind of sounds the same once you get to 1.5.
yeah. There's certain like Ben Shapiro, you can't go to 1.8, but like the All In podcast, it's now cringy for me to listen to 1.0 speed because they talk so slow.
Yeah, they're really falling off.
I thought anyway. Freeberg's one-off podcast was really good.
I stopped after 10 minutes.
What? You didn't like it? Yeah, that's disappointing. So I have here software is the most important part of weapons now. I think that's why they're gonna win, is because they have the biggest head start on software. So we'll see
Yeah.
if I'm right about that.
It's that module aspect is what I think of why it is the most important, right? It's like being able to already have the foundation built for anything you need to adapt to, any new product, any new updates. It's like if you don't have a good foundation, and I've seen bad foundations of software and good foundations, and the what makes the difference is how easy is it to change? How easy is it to add stuff?
Hmm.
You know, like when it's what you hear in the industry is probably not, but what I've heard people say is they call it spaghettified, where everything's just like this, and if you want to add something over here, you're like, hopefully it doesn't break all that other stuff,
Hmm.
or hopefully I know that the input coming in from the other systems is right, and there's not another process affecting that process. And once you get to these big software solutions, it's really hard not to spaghettify it. And that's like when VCs talk about scaling, that's what they're talking about. Can you create a software that scales, as in it doesn't turn to crap to where you almost become paralyzed from poor infrastructure of the software?
And so is that just choosing the long-term way of structuring the code every time
Choosing,
you change it?
choosing, but knowing. You have to know one aspect. You have to know like what are the solutions to solve the software problem that it can scale. And then two, I think you have to have a vision of where it can go. Because you can't build it. I mean, you probably could build it with scaling in mind, but you have to really know like what are the potential outcomes of like what the software is going to be in the future. And there's ways to design to make that really easy. And a lot of the new languages you see, that's what they kind of enable is ability to create better infrastructure,
Hmm.
lower overhead time as well.
How have software languages not converged yet?
Into one.
Yeah. Or at least I mean, if you ask someone that doesn't know, I would say C and Python are the majority share, but you're smiling here. Educate me.
Maybe in defense sees like high because you want to really control every aspect of it and not have anything like hiding under the sheets really because C like you have 100% control of like where the memory's going, stuff like that. And then why hasn't it converged into like one language? So there's some weird each language like offers a certain optimization, something it's good at. So like you can't have Python and C or else you just have C sharp. Like that's what it is. Like C sharp is just the in between of like Python is like you are three layers above, you're laying on top of your mattress and your sheets and your comforter and you're just playing around. Like Python has you don't have control of the memory. A lot of the functions you're using are someone else's built functions as opposed to C, a lot of the stuff like you're really not using anything else that other people have developed for the most part. Like you can bring in libraries, but I think that's going to be less typical to do. So it's like it's a at least with the C to Python question, it's a matter of what do you want that language to offer you? Do you want it to offer you control of every aspect of it, or do you want it to offer you ability to develop very quickly and solve problems with maybe not caring about how that memory is managed or efficiency or optimization?
So, what I'm hearing is the specialized nature benefits outweigh the fact that you have to recruit people out of that certain experience, or you have to teach that certain experience, or you could have different hardware systems that have to talk to different software languages. Like, it just surprises me that we're, what, 30 years into this industry and they haven't figured out that, one, even though it's not optimized for every scenario, but just shared language would be. I mean, there's pros and cons to Spanish and English. And I guess
Yeah,
languages are a good example because we don't have a common language. But I think
but
if you're,
I maybe the because like if you're going to build a website or something that doesn't need to be super robust, like yeah, you could go with like a Python. But if you're building software for a fighter jet, you want to know every single aspect of what that code's doing, right? And you want to be able to control that. Um, and that's just I feel like they're kind of the languages are here to solve different problems.
Hmm.
They're like another tool, really.
But so how well do they do intertwined together?
So typically, like, you wouldn't have a code base with multiple languages. What it would be is like you could. I'm sure there are maybe some code. So like,
So, example, if I have a video game that's in Python, I don't even know if I'm saying this right, and the Apple Store uses the Apple language, and the Microsoft Store has a Microsoft language, and whatever.
mhm,
There's an inefficiency in between those, correct? Or am I wrong?
of having to switch between them.
Yeah, let's say if my language aligns to Python and Microsoft is Python, it's gonna be easier to maintain that relationship as both codes develop than if I'm with
So like,
Apple and it's got C++.
you were if you were in a situation where like you had like I guess like in that situation where So typically, I think what you'd probably see is like that Android or Apple, they would have like a code interpreter. So you could run like Python scripts inside of that code interpreter and run the Python. So like with that iOS language, which is Swift or Swift UI, you would have to like open up a shell to run Python.
So it's like a
Potentially,
translator.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a window on your screen, right? It's like you pop up a window that allows that to run in that specific window on the app. It's like a VM, but it's not like remote. It'd be like a
That's
local.
ultimately inefficiency, right? Someone's got to maintain that every year that comes out with a new language. You have to make a new what you call it
Yeah.
trans.
But like the benefit, so if you were looking at that and you had a Python game, you probably developed it because you could just open an interpreter in both Android and iOS, and then you could just use that same code for the game as opposed to developing a iOS specific game that is going to be optimized and run faster on iOS and then developing a separate one on Android, which are like not too different. There are language actually it's probably what I should just answer. There are languages that actually run on both iOS and Android. There is a it's called Blazor. It's a C sharp like framework, and like it does allow development for mobile and web browsers, but it's just not like there's something about the native languages that work better.
Do you think will converge, or there will be a convergence?
If any convergence is done, it's going to be below the sheets, and then I see it
What's
as
that
a
mean?
so like below the sheets just mean you don't see the logic that's happening. So like I could see a world where it's like you're really just developing through a like almost like that agent, like the chat dialogue with like a AI agent, and it's like what Cursor is now. Like you have a dialogue on the side and the code in the middle. The dialogue, you have a discussion with it, like what you want to see. You talk about design, and it shows you little snippets of under the sheets. It said, "Oh, I merged this. I added this to your code," and that's like what's going on under the sheets. And at some point, you might not even need to see that, you know. And you just have that discussion and said, "Hey, I added this functionality to your code. What else do you want me to do?" You know, and it tells you that in English, right? Because it I could see that being the solution of convergence of different like languages and systems.
Why don't you think the above the sheets converges? You think the benefits always?
Because these, like I said, the languages are like optimized for certain
So
areas.
you think those will always beat the efficiency of one common?
Yeah, yeah, because like Python it's built on C, I believe. See that? I'll fact check myself.
So while you're doing that, the next one I had was I love that Anduril's using their own dollars and this kind of to the R&D thing to just do the to go make the weapons that they think there's a need for. They think they can make better, make cheaper, make faster. And it goes to our favorite, like you show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. He had that line where he said, "We don't get paid until we deliver." Right? Whereas the incumbents, they get paid like every hour I bill, right? Gets invoiced at the end of the month to and we get paid. There, they have these R&D dollars. You put it in a pile, but you don't sell that weapon. You don't make that money back until you actually have built it and give it to them. And I can't imagine how powerful that incentive is, and I can't believe I haven't thought about till then, because yeah, we have schedules, but I can't imagine how much urgency there would be if you didn't get a penny until you got to the very end. Like that's got to be, and that's got to be why they can go do it so much faster than what seems conceivable. Because the other impressive things he was talking about was like the incumbents. A program takes 15 to 20 years from concept to being in the field, and I can attest to that on almost every program I've been on. He thinks they can do it. What is it? 2 to 3 years. So that's
Yeah, that's like you said. That's the common thread of show me the incentives. I'll tell you the outcome. Because like that's the difference between being comfortable and then working with your like a chicken with its head cut off, like just like balls to the wall,
like there's
right?
no tomorrow.
Yeah, like I mean, just from the incentive standpoint, yeah, that's gonna be how the people feel working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's probably more like a top down pressure because the top's gonna feel that, and like top down, like I think people don't understand how effective the leadership's like mentality is and how they hold themselves. I mean, maybe some do, probably people in leadership might, but like everyone else at the company, like the tone starts from the top.
What else do I have? I liked his thought process. So he was asked, I mean, he was set up with a question to essentially trash the DoD acquisition people. And he was smart about not doing it. But I wonder if like you give him a couple drinks and you get him going and he's off the record, what he would tell you. But that was another like, man, I haven't thought about it like that. The DoD guys that are told go out and buy this weapon are not the same as VCs. And there's no doubt in my mind that the VC method's better because the incentive is better, right? You want to win, go win. But the VCs, what they have found out, and this is just common knowledge out there now, but you bet on 100 companies, 90 will fail, 9 will return, will become a unicorn and make you rich,
Hmm.
right? And that is something that they do not do in DoD. And they probably shouldn't fully and maybe can't fully. But that was just like kind of eye opening that to think about how antiquated their acquisition or their funding model is.
I didn't really catch that. That's cool. So like if the DoD would treat their investments into the products that they're buying for defense as like venture capitalists. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Right.
That's yeah, not that that will probably ever happen, but yeah, that would be a different man, that'd be a crazy different mentality.
I think what's changing and what they could do more with that is it's really
Well,
hard
now
with hardware to do that.
the
But
free
with
market's
software,
doing it, right?
yeah, the free market's doing it
The
because it's optimal.
yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
But I just, the more and more the weapons become software versions. Like, could you see a scenario where you compete the software of a missile out to Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
and you
Yeah.
don't ask them to build the hardware, but now you're betting on 100 different companies, winner take all. Give me the best software, give me the best AI to guide the software, right? I don't know. I thought that was very. I had never thought about it that way before because the government acquisition officer gets fired if they pick Anduril and they can't deliver, right? They
Yeah.
get fired if the SpaceX rocket blows up when it lands, right? So their incentive structure is all backwards. It's all give me the safe bet where I'm end up paying $1,000 for paper cups, right? Because it's guaranteed to not fail.
Yeah, and what these companies are doing now with the free market is they are failing fast, but they're being that much more competitive in their pricing and products that they are able to win. And one of the things I really hadn't put together was how impressive it is that Elon's been able to celebrate failure at SpaceX
Yeah,
just without any like just so fluently and naturally he's been able to make it cool to fail.
yeah.
And like that is like probably one of his biggest achievements to be able to do that at a like a big company like that. Like I've
Mm.
never thought about that. There's been what, 5 starships blow up and like no skepticism about the blow
Nope,
ups.
nope.
No, I've never even thought about like you see a Boeing plane crash and you're like, they suck. And you see a Starship crash and you're like, that's sick, dude. They're freaking killing it.
But
It's
ask
just
yourself,
crazy.
like, if there was an option for you to ride a NASA rocket or a SpaceX rocket, what would you choose? Because I'm choosing SpaceX.
Yeah,
I just am. I trust that they've learned more lessons, that they're better at what they do than the company that's taken no risk and hasn't evolved as fast.
yeah. I think a big part of it, and it's kind of like why you're saying like these representatives from Anduril talking on podcasts and stuff, is you feel like there's not as much like with NASA. I feel like you just worry about like that corruption or the facade that they have built over the years, and you don't feel that. I at least don't feel that way with the companies where the people working on it are having these long form discussions where you really can't hide.
Yeah. And I feel like we got to give Bezos a shout out. The first time I ever heard fail fast was from Bezos. He hasn't made it nearly as cool as Elon, but he was, I think, one of the first to the field on that one. There was a cool line to kind of wrap that one up. It was everyone, including Russia and China, has given up on communism except Cuba and the Department of Defense. I like that one. Let's
Yeah,
see.
that's going to be my other takeaway is to fail fast. I've
Yes.
worked with too many people, companies, teams where they don't want to fail. Like I kind of push that, and I think I have always naturally just had an aptitude to fail fast, but it's not at the rate that I think I could be. I think one of our first podcasts I explained like even just with software development, like, there are testing. We have like two testing. We have a testing and staging environment to test in, and do I need to spend an extra 4 hours debugging stuff, like just like bulletproof testing it? No, that's not efficient.
Right.
To get and
If you do the true risk calculus, it doesn't pay.
yeah, yeah, and like I think that's got to be the
And it's such a hard culture to fight because there's all this like you'll run it when you try to do it. One, you'll run into the quality first people, but quality, right? And yes, you want quality, but you can get to better quality faster by figuring
yes.
out what doesn't work.
The quality people get mad if you fail something. It's like no, like you have a job for like this is why you're here is to check that.
Right, that is a huge culture shift. And then second, like when I go through like the DoD in my mind, because that's what I know, they have signed up for contracts that they expect to have zero risk, right? So you can't already have a customer that's paying and expecting no risk. SpaceX has that luxury. I think Anduril has that luxury because, and that's where this VC model I think really pays off. Anduril's not making a profit right now, but every year, everyone that invests in Anduril is happy they did, right? Because the stock is multiplying year over year. We have another guy that agrees with us on remote work.
Yeah.
That was one of his big regrets.
I mean, yeah, I think that it's definitely floating up on a lot of people's radars of these big companies.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about capitalism is like you can have a different opinion. Like I still have people in my life that I respect that think remote work is better because it's more efficient for them. But the free market, it's not. It doesn't care what is nice in people's minds. It will tell you who the winner is. And
Hmm.
I think that we're starting to see the results come in. So we'll see. It's not dead yet, but
Yeah, and that's another great point is the 20-minute VC. Like, I loved one of the things I loved about that episode was that they were arguing, they were in disagreements, but they were totally fine being in disagreements with each other. Like
yeah,
that's something that I love to see because it's so rare. Like I don't see it in real life too often. Like people get their feelings hurt, and like especially the topics they're talking about, like people would
the
have
free
gone,
speech topic.
yeah. It's
Yeah, that
like,
was a very good conversation. Like you're right, they nailed it because
and
they
it's
completely disagreed, and the podcast went on.
yeah, and it was like it was a great. It was fun to listen to.
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was the American side one. If I had to pick a winner.
Also, I wanted to say I enjoyed you asking questions about software. Hopefully, I was able to paint a decent picture.
Well, so I
I would
am
translate that,
I
but I
am
like working on it.
betting my future that software is extremely important, and I'm joining the company that's going to win that race. So I need to learn more. You see the power in it, but it's so intimidating from the outside to really step in that world because it's literally a different language, and I've never been great at. I didn't even learn my first language well, so I've never really been interested in learning a second.
You have more confidence in yourself and being able to grasp software.
I'm convinced at this point I could learn it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not a question you couldn't. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's my bias, but I think you could find yourself in this same shoes where it's fun to learn. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like,
My thing is, I like a year ago, I was really looking at a master's in AI and considering it because I was convinced it was the future. I would like to say before the wave hit, but maybe I'm fondly remembering that incorrectly.
Yeah, last year was after the wave for sure.
Yeah. But I remember like it was popular, but there's clearly a huge demand for AI engineers, right? But I think it's too late. I think that whole industry, it's like once you don't buy a stock once it's popular. You don't buy Bitcoin after your grandma's talking about it. If you're to that point, it's too late. So that's kind of the thing I took. Now I'm more looking to just be educated enough to lead software teams if I need to. So that's kind of where I landed.
I think if you're just looking at a master's, I don't think it's too late, to be honest. And also with Bitcoin, I don't think it's too late. Those two things will play out. We'll see. What else do we have here? Oh, just a quick one to hit on. The 20-minute VC, he touched on, he answered like political stance. I've always supported the left, or like Democrats, more specifically, is what he said. But that's not what we do at our company. We take the Coinbase
Yeah.
approach, the Brian Armstrong approach,
Yep.
and we're here for a mission, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're discussing about. That's what we care about. Like that is winning strategy. If your company's not doing that, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Isn't it funny how the thing's named after him now?
I
Like,
mean, he took a big risk, man. At the time,
right. If you want to be remembered, it's not going to be safe. You're not going to be remembered for doing something safe or popular or easy.
hmm
Like that's the coolest thing about it is he had the courage when no one else did, and that's why he will be remembered.
yeah,
Um, the one I had was I liked the bit about um, one he tried and he will tell you he failed, but he tried to automate his corporate team,
yeah.
which
That
is
that
funny. If you've been listening to the podcast, we've been talking
that was
about
like,
this.
yeah.
So
I
I
think I
think
forgot to note
it
it.
was it was one satisfying to know like a very successful person had the same idea and had the balls to try it. And I like that the company that I really like has the balls to try it. But at the same time, he will tell you it failed. He wishes if he could go back, he wishes he would have heavily invested in staffing to scale and invested in the OS to really do all those tasks. So I hope he was just early and not wrong.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like we have a couple threads, and we'll see these threads throughout our podcast. These lessons that these super successful people learn, and you can be right about something, but too early that you're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably very well where he was at, especially if he's saying he did this like a year or two ago. Like, yeah, that could have very well been too late.
Yeah, that I remember learning that lesson for the first time watching the Big Short movie, and I love recommending that movie because he what's his name?
It's not Brian, is it?
The guy that bet on against the market and won. He almost lost everything.
Michael Burry?
Michael Burry, now considered a genius. He was almost 6 months away from being a moron
Mhm.
because he was too early. And so it's an important lesson to learn. Being early is just as bad as being late. You could be right and early and be wrong.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny. I feel like our dad is typically early. Out pops. There's been stuff that he's hopped on, and like 5, 10 years later, it's mainstream. It's the craziest thing.
I love you, Pops. Remember, it wasn't me that said that.
I thought that was kind of a compliment.
No, that's not what I heard. We'll see. We'll see how he takes it. I like it.
He's like, I am early, and I'm early about this, and that.
Okay, I can see him taking it that way.
Yeah.
Maybe. Following that conversation, he had an awesome quote that he came from Elon, and it took me a while to type it out at 2.5 speed. The extreme difficulty of scaling technology is not well understood. It is 1,000 to 10,000% harder than building the prototypes. The machine that makes the machine is where the genius, or is where what takes the genius. I love that line. I think it's spot on, and it makes me feel really good because that's what I'm good at. I love that. So hopefully, I'm the last person AI takes out because that's the last problem AI solves.
Yeah. I think this could very well be another common theme we haven't seen since Dan Martell of the power is building the machine that makes the machine.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. That's another way to look at. I didn't look at the Dan Martell thing that way, but now that you say that out loud, it's like building the machine that makes your job easier,
Hmm.
right? That takes the true talent and
It's not maybe the true talent, but it's a different type of talent that isn't typically like people don't always see that, you know? It's like it's that compound effect that's very hard to measure, but is arguably the most important thing.
I think it's just as hard as inventing the new technology, but the top talent, the smartest and greatest minds want to go invent the new technology. They don't want to invent how to make it, if that makes sense, or mass produce it. It's like the level of talent dedicated to that very difficult topic isn't there. And it isn't well refined. And I think that's what he's kind of getting at.
Well, yeah, because like just when people talk about Elon, they're like the guy who builds cars or the rocket. He's the guy who built the production of the cars.
Right. He's not the first one to build an electric car. He's the first one to survive scaling and taking on the automotive giants, right? He had to
Yeah,
outlast them.
and probably the engineers on his team in development were the big ones to make a lot or bring a lot of those big development ideas up. Like it's hard to say that he like had the vision for those aspects, but he was for sure the one who was able to get the team to produce it at a high volume.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I feel like I had something really, really insightful to say and it's gone, but might be the most frustrating feeling.
Come back.
Cool metric that I wish was more publicly available for the companies. And if I could, if I had a VC firm, I would bet on companies based on this metric. Really cool metric. He said when their private stocks of Anduril were available to be sold by their employees only sold 30% of it, which he took as a good sign. I think I take it as an excellent sign. If your company is owned by their employees and the employees are holding that stock, the people with the most knowledge, most invested in that company believe in it. That
Hmm.
was a very cool metric that I hadn't heard before.
I agree. I wonder. I kind of thought that number was kind of high, but I don't know.
I think,
They
especially with
don't.
startups, that's a pretty low, right? Because that's how you feed your family. You sell those stocks.
They typically have salaries.
I mean, not to live in San Francisco salaries.
Yeah.
Like, what's a start? I mean, I wonder if it's public for like SoftBank or maybe that's a bad example. Stripe. Yeah. Pull that up, Jamie. They asked him what made him good at execution. Just interrupt me when you find it. His answer was he's always plugged in, like he's always doing emails and stuff. And he asked him about his daily routine. He wakes up at 5:30. He works out at the office. He stays all day long and makes it home to tuck his kids into bed.
Dude, I thought it was so cool. I had this whole random thread of thought of like it'd be so cool like to have a whole like team that you work with and like in the morning you go work out together. Like the discussions you'd have there, the camaraderie,
Right.
the ability to go fight the day, I feel like would be so sweet. Like I was thinking, I was like, that'd be so cool. Like if we were working on the same team and then we'd start the day by working out and then we get into it. That cool scenario to be
That
in.
would be odd. I would love if my boss to work out with me every morning. The weird so I'm not saying I had that idea before, but I've considered having like walking meetings. If it's a nice day out, let's not sit in a conference room without windows. Let's walk. It makes us all healthier. I think it'll improve our mood. And I have really good ideas when I'm walking. Like just like being in the shower. I don't want to take showers with any of my coworkers, but I think we could walk together. But I decided not to because I think it'd be so weird. Like it is very against the norm.
I do it. I do it at work. Typically, I
You
I
do it by
started
yourself or you do
no
it with
like
your teammate?
other people. So I started a mentorship program at our site, and we did like all of our developers were in it. And anytime I like, if someone asked to talk to me about it, or I wanted to like reach out and make sure people are doing well or get feedback, I every single time I guess it's not a whole lot, but 5 times the past couple months I just said let's take a lap because there's like a kind of like a
That's cool.
atrium that has like a lap thing around it, and so that's what I do. And like it does sound weird because I was typing it out. I was like, hey, walk and talk question mark and just send it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, no, I think you got to pull the trigger on that. That's
Oh,
a
I might go ask. I'll ask them Monday, and I'll let you know what they say.
I wouldn't do it in front of a bunch of people. I would maybe just do one person to start
Well,
with.
so we have a morning tag up with 4 people. I talk with 3 of my leaders every morning.
See, you have to feel that out. Like I feel like one-on-one's a great opportunity, but if you get more than one-on-one, it might be tough to do a walk and talk. But try it out. Never done it.
That was the one I was thinking originally, but let's see. We're running out of time.
Yeah, I got one question before we go. I thought it was cool. I think it gives a good perspective of like where people are at. Does money make you happy?
I'm trying not to be the poo poo guy. I've heard that question so many times, and everyone has the same answer. Like, if you're surprised that money doesn't make you happy, it just buys you, like, you know, you don't have to worry about the bills. That's
Hmm.
really what it does for you. If you have any other, like, I know a lot of people that don't have money haven't come on to that yet, haven't reached the same conclusion, or don't believe it, but you can only hear that answer so many times before you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, but typically, like when someone answers that, they say no, and then they explain what makes them happy.
Yeah, it's the same crap. Like, I don't have to worry about my bills. My family doesn't have to stress about money, but it's my loved ones and spending time with those I enjoy that make me happy, right?
So, and what kind of I feel like Matt got to when he was answering that question was it kind of money is like freedom, right? It's like we live in a free country, but like it's almost a free country because you have the ability to make money, which kind of enables you to be free.
Yeah, yeah. Really, for me, it was when I didn't have to worry about paying the bills. I just knew bills were going to be covered, and I don't have to budget really. That was just that's what it bought me, and ever since then, it's the things that really I'm proud of are the hard work I put in on the B-21, all my kids, right? That's what I'm. That's what it means a lot to me. So, but yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry if I poo-pooed that.
No, you're fine.
If I had an interesting guest, I would not
I
ask
think
that
if you
question.
didn't say poo pooed it, I think it would have been great.
Okay, next time I'll just let it rip. I've been self-conscious about poo-pooing things ever since that first podcast, where that not the first one, but the basketball trainer, because I did not like that guy, I did not like that podcast, and because of that, our episode sucked. That was like the one bad episode we've had. So I've been
Yeah,
trying not to do that again, but yeah.
I appreciate
One more. So there was a lot of good lines. The second one had a great line. It was
it. Yeah, you better
first they laugh
remember.
at you, then they fight you, and then they try to join you. That's a gangster line because it like we're talking about zagging against the popularity, and the way to make a big impact is to do something totally different. Like, if you do those things, you will go down that path of first they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then they try to join you. I thought that was cool.
So this is I don't. Sorry if you're trying to rip through these, but there's one like Instagram reel or TikTok, whatever it was, that came up like a year ago, and it's been like ingrained in my head. And it was this like Olympic athlete. And it was like whatever. It was like cliche, but it really stuck in my head. It's like she had a coach that told her that like the rule of threes is what she said, and it was like if you're doing something hard, a third of the time you should feel good, a third of the time you should feel bad, and then a third of the time you should feel like okay. And like maybe those numbers, the portions can be moved around. But I feel like that's true. Like the days that I feel like bad or like I feel down, like not motivated, I'm like, just get through it. And then we'll get to that other third
Yeah.
of good about it.
Yep.
Like every single time. Like it's been a year since I saw this video and it's just like front of my mind still.
Yeah. That's a great perspective. If I have my ups and downs with Alex Hormozy, and but he's really good at like giving you mindsets. Like when things are hard, that means you're doing something good, right? When people aren't believing you, no one believed in Jordan until he was a superstar, right? Like that, those type of keeping the right frame of mind. I find myself telling Leslie all the time, it's like the best things in life are hard. So if you're not running up against that stress and that pushback, then you're not doing things that are worthwhile.
Yeah, like I think that mindset has really enabled me to like say like, oh, this is the right, like I'm on the right path. Let's keep hammering. And it's like it's almost obvious to me because the same thing I feel bad about will be the same thing I'm really high about later. And it's like, okay, this is just like the push and the pull.
I remember when I had to go in super early for manufacturing, I'd always listen to The Grindstone by Tyler Childers. You'd be at 4:30 in the morning, and nothing would relate more. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, man. Music can be it can be powerful.
Yeah, we're definitely programmed to be impacted by it. That's for sure.
Do you have anything before we close? I know you gotta get out of here.
I don't have any more topics. I killed it in basketball Wednesday, so I'm excited to go back again today. See if it continues. But man, I'm excited.
Dang.
I am so excited. I'll say this one last thing. It's like, so I have clearly let myself get very, very excited about this opportunity. And last time I was just excited about a job, I didn't get it. And I got to the same place, and this is where it all came apart. And so part of me doesn't want to get too excited, but here's what I've decided. That
You're gonna start your own company if it
no,
doesn't
no,
work.
no. Fuck that. I'm not gonna not enjoy this because it has a potential to burn me. I'm getting out on that limb, and if I fall, I fall. But I am full pot committed to this. So hopefully I don't look back at this podcast with a tear in my eye, but we're going for it.
Love it. Give you some motivation if you fall, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to help pick me up because I was pretty freaking sad when I lost that last job.
Yeah, that's always.
I was in a funk for a while. It's not every day you get this close to being.
Well, I think like you change your whole like perspective of where you're going in life when you like
Yeah,
have these opportunities present themselves, right? And so like I don't know that vision of where I'm going in life motivates me each day. So yeah, if that changes to something worse, then that's going to be a hard one to
yeah.
bounce back from.
The big difference for this one is I believe I am qualified for this job. Like it's kind of a no brainer. I think I'm very qualified for this job. The last one, the chief engineer for SpaceX, I always kind of knew it was a little ambitious.
Yeah,
All right,
cool.
Conley, let's wrap.
All right, there it is.
Episode 18. Thanks, everybody.